Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Manmouth. Read the title, folks. This is a very serious thing that we're going to talk about called mental health crisis. Pretty much the whole show will be exactly that, and then everybody will have their own parting shot, mental health or no mental health included. But meanwhile, this is something we do have to address. So with that said, I want to welcome the crew. Candy, glad to have you back on.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
George Eichhorn.
Hi, Scott. Hi, everyone. Good to be back with you.
And last but not least, JB Ellis.
How's everybody doing? Glad to be here.
Great crew. And I know that we'll put everything we've got into this show like we do every other one. And what's going on, Josh Fedora? Glad to have you on here as well. He's a regular, and we're always pleased to have Joshua anytime he can get on. So, all right, with that said, okay, let's get right to it. The golf world has been rocked with the passing of two-time PGA winner Grayson Murray, death at age 30 due to a suicide. I'm going to give you my personal comments on this one first, and then I'm going to take it around the horn. First of all, suicide affects everyone, not limited to men in their 40s and 60s, okay? Like a moron that I used to work with that resides in Calgary, Alberta, okay? And when I say that, this moron is a moron because when I went on one of his shows, I called him out on it. Not that he cared, and I didn't care because I'm not dealing with the moron, okay? But let's keep in mind that if we go back in the past, okay, now I know there's many other incidents related to this, but once upon a time, Freddie Prinze Sr. committed suicide at the age of 22 due to a gunshot to the head. This is not between 40s and 60s, folks. It happens to anybody, any age, and any gender. With that said, okay, all I can say about Grayson Murray, it's just really, really sad to see a guy at age 30 who, to me, was starting to gain a little bit of traction in his golf career, but it ended so suddenly, and that is an absolute shame. It really is. Now, I don't know whether golf has the type of programs where team sports do, where you have the support based on that, to get help. So I'm not going to go out there, but let me start off with Candy Ebling. What are your thoughts about the unfortunate tragedy of Grayson Murray?
Well, first of all, rest in peace and condolences to everybody on the tour, his family, his fiance, and anybody that was close to him. But kudos to his parents for coming out when we learned of his death on Saturday. I believe it was Sunday. His parents came out and his parents said, you know what? He took his own life, but we know now that he rests peacefully. And I guess that must have been hard because for a parent to come out with a statement about their kid and about taking his own life, it also brings an awareness that I think all of us need to know. All of us need to be aware of signs of how we can help people. Right now, it is mental health awareness. I believe the month of May is mental health awareness. At least it is for our company. And so I can say our company has been sending out emails, sending out things that tell us as employees that they have added mental health awareness and a program so that if we need help, we can go out there and get so many sessions for free. And years ago, this was a taboo subject. Nobody talked about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it, even though it was happening. And so I guess while I'm pleased that we're talking about it and that we're bringing more awareness to it, it's just so sad that people are still feeling that depressed, that down, and still taking their life.
Yeah, that's true. Keep going.
Everything
else you want to add to
it? We need more help out there. I mean, let's face it. I hate to say this because this is going to sound cold of me, but to a certain extent, I'd rather them hurt themselves than some of these mass murderers that go out and shoot everybody, knowing that their fate is going to be either death or life in prison. But the state of the mental health of lots of individuals
Right.
is bad. And the first step is to know that you have a problem and admit you have a problem, and to have friends and family that can help you through it.
All right, Joshua, I couldn't agree with you more. That is very sad, especially when it seemed like he was starting out to get on the right path. No doubt about it. So, with that said, we'll turn it over to Joe. What are your this? It's tough to talk about, but
Yeah.
we have to do it.
No, I mean, we spoke about this yesterday at Sideline Sports. It's always sad when you see anybody take their life. And, it's a shame that in this day and age, there are people that don't realize that there's always somebody there that they can reach out to, whether it be, I said last night, reach out to any of us. If, we can't help you, we'll find where you need to go.
Right.
Dave DeRocher has a lot of training, knows a lot of people in the space. We're not going to think any less of you because you feel a certain way. We all go through our own problems. But two things I always want to say to anyone that, is ever thinking like that. One, it could always be worse. As bad as it may seem, it could always be worse. There's somebody that has it worse than you right now. It may not be an easy thing to take or say, wow, well, he's worse than me, so I'm okay. You still might not be okay, but, you could get through it. And secondly, there's always somebody that cares. Reach out to myself, any of the hosts of Sideline Sports. I'm sure anybody here wouldn't mind if that was the case. Reach out to us. Well, if we might not be able to help you, but we'll get you in the right direction. We don't ever want to see this because you're not only you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your family and friends and all the people that care about you. And it's a shame that this poor young man in the prime of his life, playing a game that he loved. He was successful at it, and he felt that, he just couldn't do it anymore for whatever reason. And, I give condolences to his family, his friends, his people in the game and the golf world, just anybody that knew him. And it's a great point that Kate's bringing up here, with his increase with social media. Social media, it's tough because people can just say anything on social media. They're not in your face. They're behind a screen anywhere from 20 feet away to hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles. So people don't care about what they say because there's no repercussions sometimes, and is that a correlation? I don't know. But all I can say is there are people that care about everybody. You may not realize it. Your head may be cloudy because you're going through something. Just reach out to somebody because we don't want your family or you going through that. That's really all I got to say on it.
All right, let me go out there before I turn over to George Eichhorn and introduce Kate to everybody else. She's my young student of the University of Alabama that I'm taking under my wing. She's a very intelligent young lady, and obviously she reached out to me through Spencer Tomsat for the National Sports Media Association, asked me to see if I can mentor her, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to be seeing Kate in the not-so-distant future on some shows, so watch out for Kate Aitchison. She, to me, is a rising star, and I like mentoring people. What really intrigues me about Kate is she's so coachable, and not only that, she's an exceptional writer, too. And she's majoring in, obviously, wants to be involved with sports media. So, folks, get used to Kate Aitchison. This young lady is going to be on more and more broadcasts as time goes on, and I'm proud of everything that she's accomplished so far. But let me tell you something. The upside with Kate is just unbelievably amazing. So just wanted everybody to know that tonight is Kate's coming out party. And Kate, I'm proud of you, young lady, but we have a lot more to work on. All right, Candy, put her other comment up there. Okay, I also think because of teens are desensitized, making it easier for teens to spiral beyond screen. Kate, let me tell you, that's an understatement. That's for sure. we got to get Kate to realize that great minds think alike. Learn that acronym, Kate. GMTA. Okay, great minds think alike. And thank you for the kind words. Or you'll hear plenty more. But no, thank you for the great comments that you've added to this show, Kate, especially on a very, very important topic. All right, George, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a very tough subject. Of course, it's very difficult to talk about. My uncle Albert committed suicide quite a long time ago when I was quite young, and then my cousin Joey did it probably about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, maybe. So I've been touched by it 2 times, both from my uncle and one of my cousins, and it's never pleasant. It's never easy. It's a very difficult thing to talk to and to, see your relatives at the funeral home under these circumstances is extremely difficult. And it just seems like everything is just piling on and confronting people more nowadays. We got veterans coming back from the different wars that are very frustrated with their lives. Many of them lost limbs or parts of their mental PTSD, as they from the bombings and the bombs that they had to disconnect or whatever the word is. Anyways, all the people that were served in the armed forces, that's gone up greatly. Our young people, it's skyrocketed too high. And like you said, Scott, it happens at any age. And I was just shocked, like everybody was, when I heard the news. What I'd like to do is I'd like to just, if you see any of these signs, and this won't take long, I just want to use 2 minutes of my time to tell you that if you see a friend withdrawing from people and activities, if you see that he or she senses that hopelessness has set in, or does this friend or relative say goodbyes, really with a sense of finality? They could be obsessed with death, dramatic changes in their mood or their behavior, giving away possessions is another telltale sign. And like you guys said, seek the help. Seek help. There's mental health professionals around us in everything. There's a suicide prevention hotline. Doesn't cost anything to call. Get the help that you need. I know we need more help. Our big cities need more help. How many times we've seen hostage situations and family shootings where the police chief has to come out and say, this was a case of mental health. This was a case of he didn't get the help or she the help they needed. So it is an epidemic. It is serious, and we need to all pitch in and help people out. Thank you.
Let me tell you, when I lost my step grandfather, Sidney Jacobs, to it, he was age 67. That took us all off guard. But again, you have to understand that when you're dealing with this thing, I'm learning more and more about it as well. And, that's a reality. And when I alluded to this stupid, outright idiotic individual at the top of the show that had the gall to limit it to just 40s, 50s, and 60s and men, you want to talk about the word delusional. This particular individual takes delusional to a different level. But the reason why I say it isn't to take a personal shot at him, but the main thing is that everybody can be subjected to this whole thing, not just a specific gender as well as an age group. I just mentioned Freddie Prinze earlier. The guy was 22. I used to watch Chico and the Man many years ago, and that was my favorite show growing up as a kid. Don't worry, Kate and Josh, I know you weren't around for Chico and the Man, maybe one of those classic TV shows. We'll probably show it to you. And by the way, Joshua, I don't know where your other cronies are, but Kate is in the chat room, okay? So tell them to get off their high horses and talk about this important subject and realize that we have a rising star in this chat room. I promote her. I'll promote her like Don King promotes boxing, okay? Because I'm darn well proud of it. But no, suicide isn't limited to just a specific age group, okay? It to me, it happens to everybody. And I'm not afraid to admit this. Many, many years ago, I've run into points where I've dealt with depression situations, but obviously I'm talking to you folks. But it isn't easy. And like Joe was mentioning earlier, go out to anybody that you feel you can talk to because it's important. But, there's a person out here at some point he either hasn't contemplated it or attempted it because it's such a. I view mental health crisis as a disease, and that's exactly what it is. All right, let's go back to the chat room with Joshua Dore. Okay, you've seen more and more players in the NHL utilize the help they offer. Not sure if that tour has anything to do for the players. Well, Joshua, I just made mention of the fact that I'm not sure what the tour does with the players at all. I'm not. And I think a lot of the major leagues will probably go ahead and do that. Candy, you have something you want to say?
I do. There was a study, and in 2019, approximately 46.6 million people were living with mental illness in the United States. That's 1 in every 5 adults will be living with a mental health condition at some point in their lives. And then they talk about professional athletes. Up to 35% of elite athletes suffer from a mental health crisis. Some have spoken up. Obviously, people like Michael Phelps have spoken up. Simone Biles, she withdrew due to her wanting to get her mind right before she competed. And look at, she's still competing at a very, very high level. There's help out there. You just need to seek it. And like JB said really eloquently, if there is anybody that is watching this show tonight and has an issue or is depressed and wants to talk to anybody, you can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. No questions asked, and we will help and do whatever we can. Or Sideline Sports. Any one of us would help you and find the resources that we would need. If we can't help ourselves, we would find you resources to help you.
Well, Katie, that's a great segue. It really, really is. So why don't you go ahead and let everybody know more about what's going on with us here, and then we'll transition over to the next one. Go ahead, Candy. I'll tell you, I saw Coach John Bonamego today. This is the best act he's ever had since he's been with me. And I was afraid that we were going to run overtime in the show. You talk about people that are learning in our system what's sidelining us. Coach Bono had a night for the ages. So, Candy, let everybody give it all to him.
So if you enjoy podcasts, you can listen to any of our broadcasts via podcast, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Deezer, Geo7, you name it, wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to us. If you're seeing a red subscribe button down by George, that means you have not subscribed to our channel. I don't understand why you haven't yet, but please do so. You can watch Monday nights, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tuesday nights is Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange, so you never know what sport we're going to be talking about. Thursday nights, TBD. Watch for more details. You never know what show we're going to pop on in there. The other thing is, before this show on nofilter.net, Scott has now an interview show where he talks to who knows who he's going to talk to next. Last week it was Melfar Jr. This week it was Coach Bonamego, who is a cancer survivor. Great shows. You'll have to go watch that. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. Check out our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can see writings, you can see pictures. Go check it out. Email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Scott, South Florida Tribune is your Twitter handle, right? Anything else you can think of?
Actually, Tribune South. Of course, we have the book too, right?
Oh, yeah. There's that thing that he wrote. How long did it take you to write this book, Scott?
You know what? Believe it or not, it only took me 4 months, 5 months when you include the editing is what it did. When I get my mind onto something and I write down an outline, I just hammer away. And it worked out well.
Lessons from the microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. George wrote the foreword and Scott wrote the book. You have to get it. Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple, or Google. Go get your book today. Okay, Scott, back to you.
All right. Well, Kate, you got some fans out here. Joshua Dore says, welcome to the chat. Good stuff. Okay. And Rocket Scientist is saying, hey, what's going on? Well, I have a feeling Kate's probably still around a little bit. But one thing about her is she does like to absorb a lot, and that's what she pretty much does. So I don't think you've seen the last of her. If you have, show up on time there, Rocket Scientist. All right, because you know when this show starts. With that said, let's talk about a segue to it. And last year, LA Rams quarterback Stetson Bennett, okay, took a year off after being burned out after leading the Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship. Then he had to get ready for the pro process. And he's fortunate that he had the support, though, from general manager Les Snead and Sean McVay, and he's ready to compete. This is a good story because we just went from one extreme to another with Grayson Murray to now Stetson Bennett, who I think eventually with the Rams will be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. They have Jimmy Garoppolo in the quarterback room as well. But this is good. This is what we need to see more of, where the team gave him their entire support, came back, is ready to go. And college athletes, what they do is once they, especially if you win a national championship, there's not a lot of downtime for them. They have to get ready for the pros, especially if they're ready to go, and then they're being drafted and all that business. So this is a good story. It really, really is. And I hope Stetson Bennett has an excellent career. And the irony is between him and Matthew Stafford, they're both former Georgia Bulldogs. All right, you know what, George? Go ahead.
You're on mute, George.
Yeah, George. Unless we have a silent movie here, good. I'm glad the mute button's gone.
Well, it's interesting that this came up because mental health, as we said earlier, just as important as physical health. And if he did not feel ready or up to the challenge and had to sit out, I know a year is a long time to sit out, but hey, look, he's got a lot of football left in him, as the saying goes, for Stetson. And I think it's really to his advantage. And obviously, he needed the time off. I mean, we got Austin Meadows. Austin Meadows was obtained by the Detroit Tigers, and that poor fellow's gone through so much mental health issues, and now he's not even on. The Tigers, unfortunately, had to cut their ties with him. And I hope and pray for Austin that he can someday get back to the big leagues, but more importantly, that he can have his family and his loved ones surrounding him with the support he needs. But yeah, I mean, he is a good. I still like him. I think he got good qualities and everything. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. And like you said, Scott, hopefully the heir apparent to Stafford, who is obviously getting up in age. But no, I give him. I'm glad that it worked out for him, especially the Rams. Obviously, their talented coaching staff and medical staff and everything that this young man needed to try to, like you said, take a break away from all the activities and obviously the great years he had at Georgia. But I'm behind him. I still think he's got a great future as well with the Rams and the NFL.
All right, back to the chat room. Okay, there you go, Rocket Scientist and Joshua. You feel better? Kate's in here, so I don't want to get into hockey. I'm a big-time Rangers guy, although I will admit I do like all teams from the original six. I have to admit that. But let's keep it rolling there. So that's going to be the most likely story. I'm a Canadian, so I'll put that one back up. I like this. I'm a Canadian, so I've been bitter about the lack of Canadian teams winning the Stanley Cup. Look at that, Joshua. She's not happy that the Canadian teams ever won Stanley Cups. We'll see whether the Edmonton Oilers can break that. I know we're talking about this, but you know what? I do have a responsibility to go to the chat room and address different things here. So with that said, okay, there you go. What's up, Rocket Scientist? You're talking to Kate and Candy, Rocket Scientist. I love when you do the business talks. There you go, Candy. All right, let's keep it rolling. Okay. So now Kate says, I'm a huge Oilers fan, so I am banking on a good game tonight. It's not the Oilers I have to give it to. It's the Stars, unfortunately. Okay, seems to be my nickname now. Look at this. Joe, don't you love this? I mean, right? I'm telling you, this is these people now, even though we're talking about some serious stuff here, at least we can say that, to me, we could see new fans talking about a sport, and I might actually have a hockey parting shot later. So look at that. keep it rolling, Candy, and we'll see if we can keep it up there. No, all right, keep it. People can read it if you're watching on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. And if you can't, well, I'll read the most ones I need. Northern Ontario, whatever Scott thinks I'm ready. Oh, they want to know when she's going to come on. Josh, yeah, he thinks you're ready. Joshua, you have to take it a little bit of time when you're developing young talent and bring them on when they're ready to go. All right, now back to we talked about Stetson Bennett, Joe. What happened in LA was good, okay, and we need a lot more teams to have the same philosophy. The Tigers were very patient with us and Meadows for sure. It's not like they got rid of them once they found out about it.
No.
But at some point or another, they have to find the best roster that they have on and go with that. Joe, go ahead. I know you've been patiently waiting, so
No, listen, Stetson Bennett had some issues with alcohol. He got arrested prior to the combine. Pretty sure he was right after the season, and he was going through some things, and he did what was best for him, and the organization backed him. And you have to give a lot of credit to both sides in that, the player, Stetson Bennett, and the organization, because a lot of times in sports, guys don't take the time for themselves and don't say, okay, I need to reset and figure out why I'm having these issues or what's causing this problem. They just try and deal with it because the moniker is, toughen up, fight it out, be a man. We hear all that stuff in sports, and sometimes you need time. You need to figure it out.
right.
You need a professional to help you. There's nothing wrong with that. This young man did it. I hope he's past whatever problems he had. If he unfortunately is suffering from alcoholism, it's a lifelong problem. So hopefully he's strong enough to get through it. There'll be days that'll be extremely hard, but he's ready to go back on the field. And I give the Rams a lot of credit for sticking by him and giving him that opportunity because he has a lot of talent. And, nobody does something for nothing. They obviously saw that he could help their organization. So I'm sure that's part of the reason they did it. But at the same time, we got to commend them for doing that. So I think from both sides, this is a phenomenal story. And I wish the kid the best of luck.
Yeah, no, Joe, I agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I incorporated it tonight. We obviously know that there's some tough stories that we're forced to deal with, but then when you find one like this, you have to be able to see one side and the other, and that's why I believe that Stetson Bennett fit the criteria of what I wanted, of the message I wanted to convey to everybody else. Okay, Candy, go ahead.
He started his career as a walk-on to Georgia. He transferred to Jones College, and then he transferred back to Georgia, where he won consecutive national championships in 2021 and 2022, joining A.J. McCarron and Tommy Frazier as the only quarterbacks to win consecutive NC2A national championships. He then, early, as Joe was saying, January 28th of 2023, he was arrested on public intoxication. Kudos for him for getting help. Kudos for him. Let's face it, when you go and you go on to the NFL, you are handed a pretty big contract. Nothing like you've ever seen before. And so to say, I'm going to pause and I need to take care of me and my mental health in order to be able to perform at the best level I can, you got to give this kid credit. Because that is amazing. Because most people want to make as much money as they can, as early as they can, especially someone in his position. But for the team then to back you up, JB, again, kudos. You were right on point. Kudos for the team for giving him the time he needs to get his mental status, his mental health back in check. Or the time off that whatever he asked, the time off that he needs.
Okay, Joe. Go ahead,
There
Candy.
are too many bad stories that we hear about NFL players doing this, doing that.
Right.
that kudos to him for taking the time to get the help that he needs so his problems don't get bigger, get worse, anything else happens.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to ask you to do something you haven't done before. You know what that is? I want
What
you to
is it?
read Kate. I want you to read Kate's comments. Kate's. This is a good one, and then you have first crack to answer it. Then we'll, if we feel need, we'll contribute.
It's great to see that, especially in contrast to the backlash Simone Biles received. Fans often view athletes as inhumane or inhuman. So organizations backing athletes is essential to keeping them safe.
Well, what do you think,
So-
Joe?
So I support Simone Biles in taking time off, and she needed to get herself to the right mental place she was in.
Right.
I was all with her until the Powerade commercial. And until I see all that money from Powerade donated to a mental health organization, she's a fraud. That's all
Okay.
I'm going to say.
That's fine.
Because she went and she made money off Pause's Power. And Powerade is just as wrong with it. So until I see all proceeds from that donated to a mental health organization, Powerade and Simone Biles are nothing but frauds to me.
And you know what? We appreciate your direct honesty about it, Joe, because that's what this is all about. Every time we do one of these shows, folks, every opinion, whether it's controversial or not, to me, it's important that all of these get addressed. And Joe, I'm proud of you for making that comment. And you know what? You're going to fall into the GMTA as well, at least as far as me and you are concerned. Now we'll see whether or not Candy buys into that.
If I buy into what?
What Kate just asked you, or did Joe not turn you into a Simone Biles fan?
I mean, I understand. I'm still a Simone Biles fan because I think,
Right.
again, none of us have walked in her shoes. None of us have. None of us know the pressure that she's under. Yes, do I have an issue with her making money off this? Yes. But I also say that it's getting a message out there. And the message is, so let's face it. Sports is a business. And that's what she is. She's an entertainer. Now, does she entertains by her gymnastics? There are lots of other how should I say that, athletes that have promoted things in different ways that I don't agree with necessarily. So do I agree with that? No. But her bringing up any kind of awareness is also good.
Okay. Fair enough. What do you think, George?
Well, I don't know enough about it to make that kind of comment, but I appreciate JB's honesty, and that's how he feels about it. But I do applaud her. I mean, you look at the situation where she was on a world platform. We're not talking about just a single game of a single season, or, and I'm not dissing anything that happened, but it wasn't a weekend golf tournament. I mean, we're talking about the biggest platform in the world, and that's the Olympics. And this happened to her in front of all the cameras of the world. It was incredibly open, and everybody could see the things, not behind the scenes, but obviously see the problems she was encountering, practicing and trying to warm up and be in the right mental state of mind. So that young lady went through a lot, and I do give her credit, because she could have just said, that's it for me. And here she is again, obviously qualifying for the United States team to play in the 24 Olympics in Paris, France. And she's at that high level again. What she does with her money and what she does with her income, I'm not going to weigh in on that. But the fact of the matter is that I do believe she has a kind heart. I do believe she has and wants to see people that have these crises resolved and have been to better mental awareness. I do give her credit for that as well.
Quick
All right,
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So, okay, in a situation where she walked away last time due to whatever she was going through mentally. Again, I support it completely. What happens? She makes the Olympic team this year and she does the same thing. What happens with that? How does everyone feel about that? Because, I mean, when you look at something like that happening a second time, and there's nothing saying that it will happen a second time, but would that affect your opinion? Because at the same time, if it does happen, and I hope it doesn't, because I don't want to see any athlete go through something like that. But there's always that possibility. Say it does happen a second time. Where do we say that, you cost someone else an opportunity that worked really hard to be there?
Yeah.
So it's weird in that situation, because I truly, totally support her up until the commercial, and that's separate because she still had the right to sit out. I don't question that. You've got to be in the right frame of mind to compete.
Right.
So I'm all for her on that. But if it happens a second time, which it could, because, unfortunately, if she's not getting whatever, not going through whatever process, what, hypothetically, if it happened a second time, how would we look at her?
Well, I'll answer that this way. Number one, I believe you'd have a little bit less sympathy the second time. Usually when things happen the first time, it's like an alert or a warning. You know what I mean? But if you see it again, to me, I've always viewed people like, if you see it again and they don't learn, I think the credibility is questioned to some degree. I really do. Now, again, that's just my opinion, but I don't know. The Olympics to me is a dream for a lot of people, and I realize there's a lot of pressure there, but I don't know. If I see it again, I have to wonder about her credibility to some extent. Go ahead, Candy.
So can I say that Powerade has launched a new campaign focusing on supporting athletes' mental and physical health in time for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, with the help of gymnast Simone Biles and other athletes competing in Paris Games. Now, what Powerade is going to do is, alongside the campaign, Powerade will create a bespoke Olympic Village experience, enabling athletes to prepare mentally and physically for competition and life following the Olympic Games.
Right.
This space will include respite, physical recovery, innovative virtual visualization practices, and safe spaces for conversations around mental health. So they're going to do more for these athletes. And, if you go back to Joshua in the chat, he actually said that Biles was sexually assaulted by her trainer as well, and he's sure that took a huge toll on her. And let's face it, Kate Atkinson again is talking about the entire gymnastics world was affected by Larry Nassar and their policies, and she was a highly competitive gymnast and watched the entire sport shift after those events.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing too. I also posted one of Kate's stories on Twitter as well as Facebook, and she talked about gymnastics and how you can watch college gymnastics. That was a great article. Go ahead, Candy, continue.
I was just reading over. Don't think anyone else can judge her actions besides herself. I am sure it was difficult to leave the Olympics. The USA team needs consistency. Her problem was not only mental, but also physical. She needs to be an alternate until she is feeling 100% in both areas for her own safety and for the team. I would believe her as firmly the second time as I did the first, but that would lead me to decision making.
Okay.
And then we start talking about hockey. So right now we're still talking about.
All right. Let me go back to George. Did you have a chance to comment on this yet or not?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to predict one way or the other. Obviously, I can understand people's concerns, and obviously she is taking up a roster spot. It's not as easy as you say, Kate. There's no taxi squad that you bring to the Summer Olympic Games.
Right.
You have to go through procedures to get an exemption if somebody's out injured and things like that. So you just can't just say, okay, we're going to bring Susie here from the University of Iowa to be our fill-in. But that being said, yes, a lot of circumstances, and we all know what this creep Nassar did. and the stuff that went on, and it really has impacted mostly the young ladies in this sport. So I hope it doesn't happen again with her in Paris. I know, but I'm not. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict that. I'm still standing up and supporting her all the way, as I am every athlete on the USA team.
All right, Josh, now let me go back to what Kate mentioned earlier. Okay. I know you like to push issues a little bit. So let me make sure it's very, very clear. Okay. Kate's done a really good job participating in the chat room, and I got her to this point because I want to break her in easily. But she'll come on when I feel she's ready. But I don't believe, Joe, I don't know how you do this with Sideline to break anybody in sooner than necessary. I want to make sure that it's an easy climb all the way. So, Josh, I'll say it one last time, and I hate to talk along these lines of being too authoritative. Okay, she'll come on when I feel she's ready, but she's done a marvelous job in the chat room. So appreciate the interaction, Josh, that you're having in the chat room, because she's making some incredible points. As far as dog check concerned, you'll get your dog check for the night, but really, dog check on the night where we're talking about mental health. I get it, but somehow maybe I don't get it. All right, he wants you, George, to go ahead and make a prediction for the Eastern Conference Finals. So do it real quick.
Okay,
and then we'll continue to stay on point.
Yep. I'm still going with the Rangers, but it's going to be 7 games. It's one of the best series I've ever seen. Overtime. And I that's who I'm going with. And I'm still picking Dallas to win out in the West.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, again, we're talking about an original 6 team, and I think the Panthers are definitely poised to probably take that step this year, but we'll see. You play 16, you don't play 8 when we were growing up in the days of the Red Wings. And of course, Josh will tell you he got money on the Stars, but wouldn't be too mad if it wouldn't be too mad if the Oilers won. Kate would like it. You'll get on her good side for that. Same here. I hate the Stars my entire soul. Not ever. Just we got some Stars people out there. I think Kate is more ready than I was. Well, maybe she is, but I have final say when they come on, and when she comes on, she's going to be dynamite. So let's put that to rest, Josh. Be thankful that all you guys have an opportunity to interact with her, but more importantly, when you see the way she writes in the chat room, her articles are every bit as good as that. All right, let's stay on one more topic pertaining to this, and then we'll stay on golf, okay? LPGA star Lexi Thompson is retiring from pro golf at the end of the 2024 season. She's 29 and is set to make her 18th straight start at this week's U.S. Women's Open. She's been in the spotlight since 2007 as a 12-year-old phenom. Her game has been in decline and hasn't won a tournament since 2019, ranked 54th in the world. Okay, again, another young lady or another young person to be ready to end their career at the age of 30. Now, George, I will say this. When we were watching tennis many, many years ago, okay, I remember Tracy Austin and Andrea Jaeger got off to exceptional starts, but then they were done by 2025. So, we're talking about Lexi, another golfer. So, all right, Katie, give me your thoughts about Lexi Thompson.
So here's a female. She's actually a Coral Springs, Florida native. She's been on the tour for how many years already? 8. She's 29 years old, is set to make her 18th straight start at this week's U.S. Women's Open. She was visually emotional during her press conference. We're doing what we love. We're trying the best every single day, Thompson explained about the difficult parts of being a professional athlete. We're not perfect. We're humans. Words hurt, and it's hard to overcome sometimes. I think with social media and everybody being able to say what they want, that sometimes we don't realize how our words can affect, especially pro athletes. So I'm guessing somebody said, oh, she hasn't won in how long? She's washed up. She's no longer good. Whatever it is. You're talking about a person. And I think we sometimes forget that. You know, we think these sports stars, no matter how quickly they rise to fame or whatever, that we put them on these pedestals
Right.
and that they're like they can't do any wrong. And you know what? There's still people inside, and you're not always going to perform at your best. You're not always going to be at your best, you know, and who knows where her mindset is now. You know, you watch, let's face it, let's look at the MLB season. It's how long? It's 162 games. How many times do batters go in, get batting slumps?
Right.
And people are talking about, you know, and what do they need to do to get back in the game? Well, same could be about a golfer. Like, what does they need to do to get back into to being their best? And maybe their best is behind them. And maybe she's admitting, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to try something else. And that's okay. You know, and we're talking about it. She's only 29 years old. She's been on the golf course since she was 12 years old. I mean, can you imagine what kind of pressure that was for a 12-year-old? For a 14, 16? I mean, I can't imagine that kind of pressure back then. And what kind of pressure everybody put on her.
Right.
You know what? I agree, Joshua. She can just chill and enjoy retirement. She's made how much money?
Right. And Joshua makes another valid point. Have to ignore the haters as well. Yeah, Joshua, I couldn't agree with you more on both those comments.
But sometimes it's hard.
You have to have a strong mind. It sounds like she was had a strong enough mind to make this decision. So anything else you want to add to it, Ken?
Nope.
All right, George.
Well, she hasn't been a factor, unfortunately, for the last several years, as we pointed out, and as Joshua pointed out, on the ladies golf tour is very competitive. The Asian golfers have just taken over that tour in the last few years. They've really done well. The young ladies that came over and played, or some of them have moved, obviously, to the United States. They have U.S. citizenship, but they've been really dominating over the last few years. And now you have a young lady, as was mentioned, Corda, that she's done a great job this year on the tour. I don't really follow the tour like I used to. My sister Pam was really into it a long time, and Pam and I would go up to Lansing, Michigan to watch the Oldsmobile Classic, which was a LPGA tour stop. And we were blessed to have the Ladies Professional Golf Association Championship a few times at Indian Creek here in Detroit, Lake Orion. But all this being said, she started out, like Candy said, at a very young age. We think about Michael Jackson, and when he started out with all those older brothers, okay, and he missed that whole time of his life. And this is what entertainers do. I know. I'm not making anything up here. Scott talked about the very unfortunate Freddie Prinze. I mean, you know, by age 20 and all that. I mean, the pressure on these kids to perform in the entertainment industry, the music industry, the sports industry. So I do applaud her. I do applaud the fact that she says now, I'm not at that level any longer. And if she doesn't find the joy in the game, or she's not winning anymore, she has every right in the world to step back and say, hey, I want to do something else in my life. So hats off to her, Alexi, and I hope that you're successful. Joshua, I might want to read this one here. Been on the golf course, you're right, her whole life. She was homeschooled so she can focus on golf. Very young age. She grew up by your aunt and uncle. Wow, I saw her on the course when maybe she was 8.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting. Good. Thanks for adding that. And now back to Kate.
Yes, athletes are human, and fans forget to see that. They already struggle immensely with identity issues when underperforming. So when you add constant comments from spectators, it is impossible. A very good statement there, Kate. Very nice. Well said.
All right, turn over to JB.
All right, so just to Kate's last comment, there's a fine line. Fans have the right to boo and comment as long as it's not a personal attack.
Right.
Once it becomes a personal attack, it's too far. That's where it needs to stop. But comments, you know, if someone's not playing well, there's ways to say it, and that's perfectly fine. Yes,
Right.
athletes are human. I agree completely. This young woman started when she was 12 as in the LPGA. That's 17 years. She's only 29 right now. She's had enough. You know, a 17-year
Right.
career as a professional is a long career in any sport. And, you know, the travel and everything. She just wants to have a regular life. I'm sure she's made a lot of money. She may not have been competitive the last few years. I don't watch the LPGA very much, so I don't know, you know, what she's done recently or when she was good previously, but you know, I'm sure if she was decent at one point, she made a decent amount of money if she was smart enough to have the resources to put the money away. She'll be fine the rest of her life. She can enjoy her retirement, and who knows? She's only 29. Maybe a year or two after she stops, she may want to go back out there. 31's not old for golf, you know, so she could change her mind if the itch comes back that she wants to get back on the course and she finds something that maybe brings her that excitement back to the game. And if she doesn't, more power to her. Let her enjoy her life. She's been doing it for 17 years. She doesn't owe anything to anybody. It's her decision. And listen, that's great. As far as the stuff on social media, I get it. It sucks. Our society is horrible with that, you know, but at the same time, you kind of have to take a step back. You know, when I first started doing this, you know, there was a comment someone told me, and I've always kept it as a great thing. If someone takes the time to say something negative to you, that means you've made it because they're taking their time to attack you. That means that you've made an impact in their life. So you know what? You've already won. And I get it's really hard to look at that and you get beat down because you want to win because you're an athlete. I want to win everything I do, and I'm not a professional athlete, so I'm sure Lexi wants to win. You know, but if they're taking the time to comment about you, you've won. You know, you're in their mind, so you've already made that impact. So, but that's just how I feel about it.
All right. Well, you know what? Number one, we all know we could blame social media for a lot of it because with me, social media is a love-hate relationship. It's what you'll get out of it when you want. Me personally, when I go on Twitter/X, I like to go out there and promote content so they can learn. Every now and then I'll answer or reply with a positive, thank you very much, appreciate you, and all that kind of stuff. Other people a bit more vindictive than that. So yeah, social media is a part of it. But the main thing is, Joe, you made several good points during the whole thing. 31 isn't the worst thing in the world. She took a year or two off. So what? You know, I mean, golf is golf. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my past LPGA experience. I've never really covered a lot of golf, but when I was in Florida back in the 80s, I worked for a weekly newspaper and they had me write a story on Kathy Reynolds. I don't know if anybody knows who she is, but she was one of the most gorgeous golfers on the planet. I asked my editor, why would this show that much? She's a very attractive woman, and maybe she could change the fortunes of the tour, which is okay, whatever you want to do, Danny. I mean, it's your pub. I'll do it. And then she was asking me why I wanted to talk to her because she didn't have any success. Well, you know, who knows down the road whether you will, but you know, we're certainly looking to interview a different type of golfer. And you know, we've chosen you, and she was really polite about it. She just wanted to know why, because she wasn't competitive. But my all-time favorite golfer that I ever interviewed on the LPGA circuit is a woman by the name of Beth Daniel. For a lot of people that know who Beth Daniel is, look her up. She had an incredible amount of success, and you know what? She's a legend in my mind. All right, back to the chat room, okay? Because we can still continue to go out there. Joe, did you read the comment? Yes, athletes are human. Forget to see that or not? Or was that one that was? If not, we'll put it up there again for those of you just joining us here on the Sports Exchange, and I'll read it. So
Yeah, I
yes,
don't think we did that one.
all right. Well, now we
did that
can.
one.
Oh, did we?
Oh, we did?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All Joshua Dorsett made 14 million on course earnings. Sponsorship probably way more than that. She'd been paid by Puma and Red Bull. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, keep them going. Robert Wardell, thanks a lot for joining us. They are human, but they put themselves in the public eye and make more money than most people. Sympathy is very low. That's an interesting perspective. I like it. Okay. Kate Atchison, I am all for calling out athletes, coaches, or any public figure, but there is a fine line that is often crossed. No doubt about that. And let's keep true that. That's true, JB. Okay, there you go, Joe. You spit out a lot of good ones. Let's keep going. It's heating up. Okay, we'll keep it going. I agree, Robert. Okay, very good. So now you've got a perspective on all of these things in terms of Lexi Thompson. Now we're going to get away from the mental health and we're going to talk about the worst kept secret on the planet became a reality as charges against Scotty Scheffler that have been dropped. Unfortunately, he has jail photos to show for it, but you know what? This is a black eye on Louisville all day long, and they just wanted to get this thing put away so that they don't have to worry about being judged over an incident like this, knowing that there was some wrongdoing, the camera wasn't involved there. So, all right. You know what, Joe? What are your thoughts about Scotty Scheffler?
Yeah, we spoke about this last week. It's pretty sad to me that the Louisville Police Department decided to drop the charges in an agreement that there would be no litigation on it. If you felt that you should have dropped the charges, drop the charges. Don't do it and make a deal that he won't go ahead and sue you. If you were wrong, you were wrong. Face up to it. If you were right, don't drop the charges. Obviously, you were wrong because you already made the deal.
So Joshua JB was on the cop last show. All right, whatever. I don't know what to take of that, so I'm just saying I put it up there, and that's the end of that. All right, George.
Well, this is an interesting situation because the prosecutor decided that we're not going to charge them. And one of the fatal mistakes here, and I hate to use that word, but one of the bad mistakes was the cop didn't even put his camera on. Right. His body camera that is now used in so many cases across America was not turned on. So the Louisville policeman made a big mistake by that. And then I don't appreciate that comment that one cop made on the air as the Sports Illustrated guy that was around Scotty that morning at 6 a.m. captured it. He goes, "You want to talk to him? Go to jail. He's in jail." And I thought that was totally unprofessional by that one cop to say that to the spectator. Or he could have been, he didn't know if that was Scotty's brother, could have been Scotty's caddy. Well, he was a reporter from Sports Illustrated or ESPN, ESPN, and he was following Scotty around. But again, there were mistakes that were made. All of this was a sad commentary, and Scotty probably wishes he wouldn't have done some stuff either. But I'm glad the prosecutor stepped up and said that there's going to be no charges at all. I don't know about an agreement or anything else that JB talked about. I haven't read enough detail on that, so I can't speak to that. But I am glad that the prosecutor in Louisville said no.
All right, for Candy, what I want you to do is I want you to read Robert's and Joshua's comments, and then you can chime in on this.
Is he not being charged because it's legit or because he ISA white wealthy male is a white wealthy male?
In search of answers. Okay.
Yeah.
The cop made a fool out of himself in his department. Robert, video and audio came out. He's being charged because it was a nonsense situation. Nothing happened. So let me address this, okay? So Jefferson County Attorney Mike O'Connell asked a judge Wednesday afternoon to drop the 4 charges against Scheffler, who was not required to be in the courtroom. The prosecutor said his team reviewed the case in a thorough and expeditious manner. Based upon the totality of the evidence, my office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler. O'Connell said during the hearing that lasted less than 10 minutes, Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was a big misunderstanding is corroborated by the evidence. Scheffler's attorney, Steve Romine, said the golfer is happy it's over, and obviously he didn't do anything wrong. He was charged with a felony for assaulting a police officer with his vehicle, along with 3 misdemeanors. During the hearing, Prosecutor O'Connell said the findings of his office's review of the case led him to request the dismissal of the charges. The evidence we reviewed supports the conclusion that Detective Gillis was concerned for public safety at the scene when he initiated contact with Mr. Scheffler. However, Mr. Scheffler's actions and the evidence surrounding their exchange during this misunderstanding do not satisfy the elements of any criminal offenses.
Okay.
So I get it. It was blown out of the situation was blown out of proportion. It should never have come down to this. How much money did we just waste on all of that?
Right. Good point.
That's the sad part of it. And the people and the reputation of the cop and the reputation of Scotty Scheffler. That's just
Well, what about the reputation of the Louisville Police Department? Do you think the PGA is going to want to go back there after this debacle? I don't think so. At least not anytime soon. And I commend Scotty Scheffler that he had a competitive tournament despite all the distractions. I really, really do. I mean, think about it. The guy, ended up going in jail for a little bit, goes back out there, stretches his leg, and is even competitive, to begin with. So, I think this is really bad look on Louisville. How many times have we seen police situations turn bad? So you knew the charges had to get dropped. You really did. And the longer it dragged out, the worse it would end up getting. And, again, how many times have we seen faulty police work cause a lot of problems? And indeed, it backfired again. So, I'm glad it's out of the way. I feel bad for Scotty Scheffler that he had to deal with something like this, but he's a bigger person because of it. And I'm glad that he can just put it behind him. So, with that said, we're going to go to our parting shots. What we're going to do in this segment is everybody has a chance to have one, no rebuttals, okay? And then we'll wrap it up tonight. I want to thank Kate Aitchison, Robert Wardell, and Joshua Dorr for being active in the chat room, and Rocket Scientist as well for the time that he was in here as well. So, Katie, why don't you start off with your parting shots?
So I'm glad that you just said it how you did, because you originally said we can only have one, but you said parting shots. So I am going to take the time to have two. The first one is my happy parting shot, and that is Minnesota wins the inaugural Walter Cup over Boston. Minnesota claimed the first Walter Cup with a 3-0 win over Boston in Wednesday's winner-take-all Game 5. The team's victory concludes the inaugural season of the Professional Women's Hockey League, which began play on January 1st. So kudos to Minnesota for winning the Walter Cup inaugural season. My second one is not. It's a sad parting shot. So RIP to one of my former employees who passed away on Saturday. But also, if any of you have heard, there was a natural gas leak that happened in Youngstown, Ohio yesterday, and it happened at the Chase Bank, and one 27-year-old male employee lost his life. There are 7 others that are injured for a natural gas leak. RIP to both of my former coworkers that lost their lives either yesterday or over the weekend.
Okay, I'm going to go to Josh's comment real quick. Another cop getting famous for all the wrong reasons, huge over abuse of power. Yeah, you know what? That's happened a lot. I see your point, Josh. All right, George, parting shot.
Well, my parting shot is going to be kind of on a sad note, too. I was obviously shocked, like a lot of us were. I guess I had lost track that he had cancer, but losing Bill Walton, Hall of Famer at age 71, really, really was like a slap in the face to me. As Scott and I have been covering sports for over 40 years, as you guys know, and we saw Bill Walton play. We saw those tough battles. He went up against the Pistons several times. Of course, he was a Boston Celtic, and of course, he won it with Portland. And the guy was just down to earth. He was just himself, a bit odd to some people, a bit strange, a bit eccentric. Jason Benedetti, formerly the voice of the White Sox, now of the Detroit Tigers, very good friend of his. And in fact, he stepped into the broadcast booth several times in Chicago, that being Bill Walton. And again, ESPN, he did great work there. So, big fella, we're going to miss you. John Wood molded you, helped mold you too, buddy. And what a great life and a great career you had. Over and out, and rest in peace, Bill Walton.
Turn over to Joe.
So the NCAA has Power 5 conferences have made an agreement to start revenue sharing with their athletes. So this was in response to not having any control over how the NIL money was used. Again, this is another one of those things where the agreement will, if it's approved, any athletes from 2016 to the present will get money, and they have to agree to give up their litigation rights, because there's a couple of the lawsuits going on involving this. I find it fascinating that we went from the last, I would say 7 years ago, where college athletes were not paid at all, to now where the NCAA and the power conferences are going to divide the money. And I want to see how it gets divided, because there's more than football and basketball in these campuses. You know, you got golf teams, you got bowling teams, you got women's gymnastics, women's softball, which is popular, baseball.
Right.
You know, I want to see how all this money gets distributed, because you can't just give the top two. You got to give all your athletes if you're going to do it properly.
Excellent point. By the way, I'm glad Reggie Bush, since Candy took 2 parting shots, I'm getting me another one I didn't think of either. I'm glad Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy back. That's all I can say, because he shouldn't have lost it in the first place. All right, well, my only parting shot actually is kudos to the Seattle Kraken for hiring Stanley Cup winning coach Dan Bylsma, who led the Pittsburgh Penguins to that championship. I was hoping the Red Wings would actually hire the 53-year-old. He spent the last 2 seasons with their AHL club, compiling a 94, 32, and 18 mark. But here's the thing that could really be interesting if it takes place. His assistant, Jessica Campbell, is a candidate to be the NHL's first assistant coach. Boy, that would be unbelievable if we could see that. You want to talk about breakthroughs? It was great that the NBA did it when Greg Popovich brought on Becky Hammond. But if Jessica Campbell is an assistant coach to Dan Bylsma, and a good hire by Ron Francis, who, you know, Dave Haxtell did not do that bad of a job. He really didn't. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, Dave Haxtell, I do believe will get another job at some point. I really do. But to me, the Dan Bylsma hire is an absolute home run. If you bring in Jess, that to me is icing on the cake. And Robert, okay, Kraken is my team. Thanks for the shout out. You're very welcome, Robert, as much as I thank you for being on here anyway. But Dan Bylsma is a home run hire for Seattle. And again, I wish the Red Wings would have gotten, although I will say Newsy Lalone has done a pretty good job. So you can't question the Red Wings hire, but Seattle's going to make out like a bandit with the Bylsma hire. So with that said, that concludes this edition of the Sports Exchange, but we're not done yet. Everybody's going to have a chance to get a hold of, we'll let them know how to get a hold of them. And I want a special thanks to Robert Wardell, Joshua Dorr, and again, Kate Aitchison made her, this was her coming out party tonight. So she'll be appearing on more and more shows as time goes along. So Kate, wonderful job coming out tonight. Rocket scientists involved as well. And as I said before, I enjoy watching more and more people get involved with these shows, because, you know, it's all about opportunity is what it is. Sideline Sports does a remarkable job giving opportunity to other people. And here at the South Florida Tribune, we work diligently to do the same as well. So hats off to everybody that participated in the chat room. Much appreciated. All right, with that said, George, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
Okay, you can find me under the South Florida Tribune banner, and under that, I write for the Motor City Tribune, and glad to be part of Sideline Sports and their website as well. And at the end of my column, then you'll find a tagline, and that'll take you right to the book that I wrote called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And if you're interested in that, there's Candy up there pointing to a copy of the book. The foreword was written by the late Ernie Harwell. And Scott's in the book. Boy, I'll tell you, Scott, we've aged, me and you, over the last 40 years. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody's aged. But the book is a good read. You can find me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can find me under LinkedIn and also get a hold of me on Twitter or X at SanGSports99. And I love doing this show and 108 Stitches and wherever Scott needs me. It's a great platform, and congratulations, you guys, on this wonderful topic today. I shouldn't say wonderful, a serious but needed topic of mental health today. So,
all right, two more things we have to get up in the chat room. Kate is Candy 2.0, knows her stuff. Oh, there you go. There, Kate, I told you that when you come on the show, you participate in the chat room. People get to know you. Honored by that comparison. That's good. As I said, you're a bright future young lady. All right, Joe, let's let everybody know they get hold of you.
So JB_the program on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, SidelineSportsNet.com. And in honor of a person that we don't have on the show anymore, on Sunday nights, I watch football. On Monday nights, you can find me talking to George. On Tuesday nights is Sideline Sports. Wednesday nights is Confidential. And, of course, the Sports Exchange. Thursday Night Football is going to start eventually. And every once in a while on Friday nights, I go out and have a drink. And then Saturdays, I'm off. If you don't know who that is, you didn't watch enough of our shows, go back on YouTube and you can figure it out and let us know next week.
Of course, Joe. I tell you what, Joe, to me, you've been the best partner I brought on in a long time, man. Don't worry. I just have to get you into some more events. And by the way, I'll mention to you right now that Joe Ellis is in a copy of Lessons from the Microphone, which Candy will not only talk about, but she'll talk about the rest of the good old stuff too, right, Candy? Go ahead.
This book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Who does it say wrote that book? Oh, yeah, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And George Eichhorn wrote the foreword. It talks about their 40 plus years in the media industry, how it's changed. Scott obviously has a story to tell. He tells different stories on these episodes every week, but go get his book to read some of the stories that go way back. Like his story about, let's say Muhammad Ali, Tommy Lasorda. Go see what stories and what pictures he's got in that book. There's all kinds of neat stuff in there. You can get it on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google, or Apple. If you like our podcast, click that red subscribe button. Also, go to Sideline Sports, click their red subscribe button. We put out these great shows for all of you. So subscribe to both. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Check out SidelineSportsNet.com. Both websites are great, have pictures, articles on them. Support both. If you like the audio version, if you like to listen to podcasts because you're traveling and you can't watch at the same time while you're driving, click on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get podcasts. Listen to this episode, listen to baseball, listen to football, whatever you like to listen to. Listen to our station, South Florida Tribune. Go to our website, of course. Email us any ideas that you'd like. southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Let's see. Advertise. Sponsor a show. Call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you have topic ideas, email us. If you missed anything, it's all scrolling on the bottom. Click it, go back and watch us again and get all the information you need to right there. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome. On Twitter, by the way, we are at Tribune South. So again, I'm glad we spent a little extra time tonight with this crew here talking about something that I don't feel gets addressed enough. So we hope that if you don't get it the first time, that you don't mind listening again and again until you're satisfied that you got what you wanted to get out of this content. Because you know what? Life is more than just us talking sports. We're all human beings is really what we are. And we can't lose sight of putting things in perspective about what happens to us or what happens close to us. I'll tell you what, in closing, suicide is something that, you know what, it affects everybody. I'm not going to belabor the point of age groups anymore. I think I made my point earlier in the show, but it affects everybody at any age with any gender. And I hope and pray, that we all have our moments where we're considering it. I get it, but the main thing is folks, there are helplines out there. So if you really do need help, then by all means look them up, and I'm sure you can find somebody that will be able to talk to you, especially in some of your darkest moments. Really do. And for me, when I produce these shows, I have to make some tough calls about what I want on and what I don't want on because of timing. But this is one that was a no-brainer. And I'm glad we brought up numerous examples on each side of the coin so that you see it both ways. But, we want to just let everybody out there, okay, that we love all you people, and don't ever forget it. We appreciate your loyalty to us. And if there's any way that we can be loyal to you, we'll do that. And Robert Wardell, yeah, my friend committed suicide 2 years ago. Help is important. Wish I jumped in earlier. But you know what, Robert? I'll bet your friend probably looking at your comment right now and saying, thanks a lot for bringing it up, Robert. And Candy, if you can get that up real quickly before we close it out. Your friend is smiling down on you, Robert, that you even brought it up here on the show. So we love everybody out there, and we hope not only you enjoy your shows, but we're your friends too. And that to me is very, very important. And Candy put it out there. Call 988 is your number if you need help. So great show tonight by three of the best. And that's not me, but Candy, Joe, and George. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, JB Ellis, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. And next Wednesday, hopefully a bit more of an upbeat broadcast, but meanwhile, hopefully you can learn something and gain something out of this. So good night, everybody, and we will see you next Wednesday night. Have a great week. Bye now.